Greetings, everyone, and welcome to the GameCola podcast. This is podcast number 75. With me today, we have a full crew. We have Joseph Martin, Anna Bryniarski, Nemeth. Oh, Jeffro. So I am reading your names. Spade, Jeffro, 826, Spade, open bracket, 372 subscribers, close bracket, Nathaniel Hoover, and Michael Gray. Everyone introduce yourselves.
Hi, I'm Joseph Martin. I'm on the podcast sometimes, and I write things sometimes. That's pretty much it.
My name's Anna Bryniarski, and I am playing Animal Crossing.
I am Spade, Jeffro 826, Spade, bracket 372, something. But you can call me Jeff to make it short. And I'm playing a RuneScape, and I'm on a podcast thingy.
My Skype just shortens your name to Spade.
Good.
Like it's
there's my code name, Spade.
I'm really trying to avoid making some sort of punny connection between playing Animal Crossing and having someone who's Spade on the podcast. So, just leave that one go. I'm Nathaniel Hoover. I do a little bit of everything around the site and a whole lot of nothing as of late.
I'm Michael Gray. I write Inside the Guide, and occasionally I write reviews. I also host the RPG podcast, so look forward to that because we're going to have an outing with Nancy Drew and the Hardy Boys coming up soon.
Oh yeah, how did that go?
Swimmingly, except not so swimmingly for me.
Yeah, I heard that you had to play both of the Hardy Boys. Is that true?
For a bit, Diana ended up taking the other one most of the time. And I just kind of drowned for a while.
Well, did your Hardy Boy drown, or did you personally actually, was it raining?
I was drowning in failure for quite a while. Let's just leave it at that.
Yeah, he ended up drowning in the treacherous swamps of southeastern Massachusetts.
Got bitten. I rolled a 1 and got bitten by a snake, and then shot while swimming in a swamp.
How?
That's what happens when you roll 1s.
Instincts before tongue should never be trusted.
And you don't put any points into swim on a story based around the Titanic. Not my best decision. So has anybody been playing video games recently?
I'm playing Animal Crossing.
Yeah, on your brand spanking new 2DS.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
How is it?
It's great.
Is it in wonderful 2 dimensions?
Yes.
Ugh. Man, I wish I had a console in 2 dimensions. All I've got is this cube. It's in so many. It's got, it's the very definition of 3 dimensions. Actually, it's, right here. I'm holding it in my hands.
Is it
here.
A cube of games?
Yeah.
Is it like your security blanket?
No, it's just right next to my television.
I don't think it would work so well as a blanket.
I've been playing Sunshine on and off.
When you press the button, open up the lid, that gives it a little more of a blanket effect.
True. You could probably put your hand in there and cover that up.
The reset button is broken, though. It's stuck in. So I can't reset. I have to actually press the power button on and off.
Well, why would you ever want to reset a game?
Breaks? I don't know.
So I have a topic.
Okay,
so I was playing Smite the other day, and I had a question,
Wait, playing what?
Smite.
I don't even know what that is.
It's kind of a slight rip-off of League of Legends.
I'm gonna look to the internet.
PC game? Steam game?
It's a PC game. Okay. But anyway, my question was how far a game can go before it becomes a complete rip-off of another game.
Wait.
Here's an example that Nathaniel might get.
3D?
Take Mighty Number 9 and compare it to Mega Man. Would you consider that a rip-off, or would you consider it a different game?
But it does look to have a strong deal of inspiration from Mega Man. But yeah, I get what you're saying.
It depends. In that case, that's sort of the point is to be very similar to Mega Man. That's its whole basis.
I would say, Super 3D Noah's Ark, which is literally using the base code from Wolfenstein 3D.
That's one way of looking at it.
Well, there's a difference between a hack or something that uses the base, I don't know, the base programming code or some of the graphics or something like that from another game. But it's really where, at least for me, it's where the heart of the game is. It's, are we trying to piggyback off the success of this other game? And are we doing all of the same things that this other game does, just a little bit differently? Or are we actively trying to be a new game, and do we just happen to have some similarities? Or did we take some inspiration from another game, but we're going in a new direction with it? My wife's been playing Torchlight 2 for a little while now, and she's been remarking on how so it's a Steam game, and I think she said something to the effect of it's the poor man's WoW, World of Warcraft, so that it's got a lot of that same hack and slash action, a lot of some of the same game mechanics, but it's still different enough that it is sort of its own thing, but you can definitely tell it's a little bit of a ripoff of World of Warcraft, according to my wife. I've only seen her playing, over my shoulder, so.
Part of it also depends on, like, how many people are being inspired by the game. Like, because, like, if it's just one, like, series or something, I'm trying to think of a good example of this. Okay, back a few years ago, when, like, first-person shooters were, like, the thing. Because I think most people attribute it to the popularity of Halo, but I don't know for sure. But first-person shooters became a real thing, and they all started, doing similar things, like having the you could only have 2 guns, you had the way the health worked, and all that. And like 1 or 2 of games like that would have been fine, but they just became so overpopulated that Halo ripoff and Call of Duty ripoff just became like almost synonymous with first-person shooter for a while.
Well, going back to your topic of popularity, you look at League of Legends. They're so popular because I've actually read something saying there's schools out there that have teams and varsity teams set up for League of Legends. Like, really? How is that an athletic sport?
Well, they technically, the story that the way I think it went, I remember when it kind of came out, but like they made it an official sport. But the main push for that was just so that people coming to tournaments could sort of get compensated, because it's a big, it's an online game. There's a big international audience. Teams could be made up of people from all over the globe. But if you're going to bring them to like a physical tournament, they kind of need to be there. So by labeling it as like an actual official sport, they could get people to come and do it without, having to spend like, a fortune to get there. I mean, yeah, the MOBA, which I don't even know what that stands for. I just hear it's like massively online
battle arena, I think.
That's the only thing I can. Hold on, I'll look it up while I'm talking. But it's like it's kind of like the next big thing, almost.
I was going to say mildly obnoxious brief abbreviation.
Yeah. Oh, it's not massively. It's just multiplayer online battle arena. And yeah, League of Legends and like what was it? I think Dota 2 was the other big one for a really long time, and those were them. And there's been kind of a bandwagon jumping on thing. Yeah. And when things jump on the bandwagon, like you were saying, Jeff, like sometimes they can be fun games, and sometimes they're just ripoffs, and sometimes they're just not really bad, but just redundant. Like that was one of the big problems with people who tried to make World of Warcraft like games. It was just like, sure, we could play this new game that's very similar to World of Warcraft and may be just as good, but I already have World of Warcraft. What do I need with this?
But I think that's where they can easily overpass them, because look at World of Warcraft. You have to pay out the butt for that. All they can do is just say, hey, our game's free.
That's the thing. I think Joe hit the nail on the head, is that it's the redundancy factor. No matter how many similarities there may be, how much inspiration there seems to have been from previous games, does this offer anything new that what came before it doesn't? And if the answer is no, then it's probably a ripoff, if there are that many similarities.
Yeah.
But even a price point of you don't need to pay $15 a month to play this game, it can be novel enough to let them get away with it, I think.
Though, of course, there's this sort of free-to-play scare. I feel like lots more people, or people in general, are a lot more wary of when something claims to be free-to-play.
Oh, yeah, because occasionally it's like, oh, free for only a certain amount of days, or this game is so difficult, so you have to pay for in-game currency to actually make it through it.
Yeah. Or what was it? Michael was trying to do some a walkthrough for a game that just like charged so very much to actually get anywhere.
What was it? That Garfield Hotel
Yeah,
game?
that's
or
right.
whatever?
Yeah. Or there was also the My Little Pony one that he was like, or was there a Simpsons one?
There is indeed a Simpsons one. It's based off the Farmville thing, so it's, again, a host of Farmville clones that have come up where you basically have to pay in order to make a lot of progress. You can technically beat the game if you have several years to wait,
Yeah.
or
Didn't
just
you like
manipulate the in-game timer.
didn't you like do some calculations to at a certain point you would be waiting like hundreds of years?
For the
Yeah, I did.
Garfield.
It was hundreds of years of Garfield. Unfortunately, the programmers noticed that, and they reached a point when they said, okay, instead of doubling the amount of time you have to wait, we're just going to add 4 minutes. This was like level 15 out of like 80 or so it's not too far into the game where you hit that upper limit, but still.
Gosh. What happens when you get to 80? Now I'm curious.
Yeah, hold on, because it says the number of minutes you have to wait for floor 30 is over a year. Anything past floor 39 takes over a century.
Well, you know what they say, game developers are crazy. Oh, sorry. I forgot Jeddy's a game
present
developer.
company notwithstanding, right? Is it just me being old and curmudgeonly that I both remember a time and miss a time when we paid money for a game and then we had all the content and that was it?
I sometimes think about how it used to be on the Super Nintendo and the Nintendo that you could just turn the machine on and you would be playing the game.
Yeah.
Like even with
Wait, what?
Like even with the like PlayStation, you would turn it on and you would have multiple logos go by before it would even like try to read the disc.
Okay. I love. Let's see. We have a PlayStation 3, and like playing the game is like the 6th option on like the 3rd drop down menu. Among I don't even know what.
Maybe they don't think you want to play the game.
I liked it when the menu was the secondary thing. Like on the GameCube, if you hold the A button while you start it, it'll take you to a menu. But it's the secondary. It's sort of a secondary function. You can also hold Z and it'll squeak.
I was about to say that too.
Or you could hold Z on 4 controllers, and then it sounds like a robot.
What?
Okay, now I did not know that part. I was about to say,
awesome.
this is great that 2 GameCola members know exactly what we're talking about.
It's awesome. Have you never done it?
What is?
I haven't done 4.
If you plug in 4 GameCube controllers, press Z on all of them, and start the GameCube, it makes like robot like transforming clang sound.
1, 2.
Yeah, well, you get a different noise for each number of controllers that you're holding
there?
down the button on. Yeah, it's different for 1, 2, 3, and 4. Last I recall.
I thought there was only
I think
one.
I only have 2
I thought there was only
controllers.
one or
Yeah,
more.
because there's one that's got that traditional Japanese like wood blocks clanging together and they're noise, something like that, that you hear in this anime every once in a while.
There was only
and there was dog barking, I remember. So I know there's other things.
Oh.
Yeah.
I've been missing out and not ever owning a GameCube.
GameCube's hitting the time in gaming timelines where it has become the sort of recent-ish console that everyone started to love.
Well, I've been trying to find like outlets for advertising, my game, and so I'm looking at all these sites that label themselves, retro something, and some of them are only for actual legitimate, classic games, and other ones are for like, pseudo neo retro, whatever like my game is. And a bunch of them were like debating over, now that we have the Xbox One, PlayStation 4, Wii U, does that mean that like the GameCube and Xbox and stuff are all classic consoles now?
Yeah. I think 2 generations is what it takes to make a classic console.
I mean,
anymore.
it's been like what, more than 10 years, right?
Yeah,
I
like
think.
it's long enough that like if you had one, I mean we can look it up, but basically if it's been 10 years.
2001. 2001 is when the GameCube came
I
out.
think
wow.
it's been long enough.
Yeah,
Well,
but
Jeddy, actually,
sorry.
I was going to talk about a bit more about Jeddy's game, which You have that cool feature in the game, don't you, where you have cool ranch mode and other modes?
Yeah.
Well, do we need to explain to our viewers, the people who view with their ears, viewers, what your game is?
Viewers, auditories.
Yes, I was going to let Jeddy
Listeners.
explain this.
Yeah, okay, my game is Pizzarian. It is a pizza delivery shmup. It's a scrolling shooter where you deliver pizzas to the moons of Jupiter.
This is real.
It is
And we have-
Non-fiction.
it is definitely a game.
And there's giant space pizza battles
Yeah.
with giant spaceships.
Yeah, you have to fight off your competitors. Big Pizza is your main competitor, and they try to shoot you down. You also have to escape the police, and a major part of gameplay, as with real pizza delivery, is cutting people off and driving around like an idiot.
Talk about your mode with like cool ranch mode and
Okay,
3D mode.
in my previous game, Star Runner, people complained about the Game Boy style graphics with the like 4 colors of green. So I decided to give players the options that they can decide what 4 colors they want within, a limited number of selections. So there's original, Cool Ranch, Virtual, and Pocket. So you have 4 shades of green, 4 shades of blue, 4 shades of red, and 4 shades of gray.
Not 50 Shades of Grey?
No, there's only 4.
I was really trying to do the math on the fly. Like, you only need 46. 8 more shit. 42. Oh, I give up.
No, but I was going to say something about the GameCube, where they have the Game Boy Player, which lets you play Game Boy games on the GameCube.
I wish I had one of those.
I do.
Yeah, they
and
have the little adapter that snaps on the bottom. I got it on my GameCube.
It has the feature where if you play an original Game Boy game, you have 12 or so different color sets to pick from.
Yeah, the Super Nintendo had the Super Game Boy, and you could change the, there were presets, and then there was, you could manually change what colors you wanted.
So I was just bringing that up because we were mentioning the GameCube, and I thought that would be a cool excuse to promote your game.
Yeah, thank you.
Incidentally, as soon as I can find the pocket change for your very, very reasonable price point, I'm going to get myself a copy of Pizzarian.
It is on sale right now.
Oh?
Yes, well, actually, it won't be by the time this podcast is over, but at the moment, it is on sale for only $1.50, or $1.49.
Oh, good heavens.
I thought you were about to say $49. I was about to say that's not a sale. Going from $1.50 to $49.
Yes, it is on sale for.
I'm still saving up the money to buy a 99-cent book on Amazon, so this could take a while.
Well,
Michael, what is more important here, Jeddy's game or a book?
Well, here I can give you an invite.
What if it's Mateo's book that I'm trying to buy?
Oh.
He's also a GameCola staff member.
Did you write a book? I thought it was music.
He did.
Oh yeah.
Vulgarity for the Masses, which is at the bottom of every single article he writes.
Oh yeah. Sorry.
I thought that was a blog. It's an actual book.
Well, okay.
No, yeah.
Sorry.
It's a physical book that you can purchase.
I can invite you to Bing Rewards, because in case you haven't heard, I've been talking on my Twitter that I almost have enough points on my Bing Rewards to get $100 in $5 Amazon gift cards. so five at a time. Hold on.
That would actually be helpful. I wish I'd known about that earlier.
You can make about 15, depending on what they're like right now, you can get 30 Bing points in a day, but you have to do 3 searches for 1 point. So it's kind of difficult. But usually it's every 2 searches you get 1 point with a maximum of 15 per day. But then there's usually a couple extras. So 17 cents a day effectively. Let's see, I have...
You've been doing this for long enough to get $100.
Hold on, give me just a second.
Hey, that's a lot of money.
I have $93 worth. Well, I guess 90 because, round it down. But I have 8,876 points. It's 475. It's 475 points to get a $5 Amazon gift card. So
So wait, how many points do you have?
8,876.
So how much money can you get?
Currently, I can get $90.
Oh,
about how
wow.
many-
That's how much you can get by trading in 100,000 games to GameStop.
How many? Wait, how many points do you get a day?
Uh,
About?
Depending, like right now, I would get about like 32, 33 a day.
All right, that's
Wait, how much a day?
That's about 269 days.
Oh, okay.
Are we talking how many points you get a day, or how much money roughly you
How
get
many
a day?
points? But I mean, when you say that it's 475 points to get a $5 gift card, it's basically 1 cent is a point about. And
Video games.
Trying to think if you're
Well-
getting more money than me, than with me and my whole partnership on YouTube.
well, I originally signed up for this because it was like a tie-in with the Xbox Live at the time, where I would get Xbox or Microsoft points for this, and they didn't have at that time actual money as a reward, so I was just getting like Microsoft points. So actually, in my lifetime, I have gained 10,190 points on Bing, but I spent a bunch on Microsoft stuff and bought video games.
Oh, tying it all back around there. I see.
I bought myself
see.
some Xbox Live indie games.
Mhm.
I think I bought Paul's game, Life in the Dorms. Don't be too excited about Life in the Dorms, there, guys.
Wait, I'm sorry.
I
I zoned out for a second because I was hearing everything about, hey, what are some other video games that I know about that people I know have made? I'm like, oh, Life in the Dorms. I know that was trying to get greenlit on Steam. Did it? And so I was just looking to check that up and cease paying attention. I'm so sorry. What are we saying?
Yeah, okay. Life in the Dorms, Paul and I have been going back and forth because I also recently put Pizzerian on Steam, Steam Greenlight, and we've been talking about like how things like ebb and flow on the market and how, you know, your first few days, like I got over 1,000 yes votes in like the first 24 hours, and then like as soon as that was over, I've gotten like 400 votes in the last week. Like it just dies. But then
So how does the green lighting work? Is it just over the span of a certain amount of time, or is it ever if you get enough yes votes from the community?
apparently it's ever, but they weirdly, like, I don't think it would matter if you had the number one max amount of points for the whole thing, but it took you like 5 years to get there. The vague consensus is that they wouldn't care as much as they would about a game that in its first week made it to number 2, you know? Like if you
Yeah, I'm so glad we're talking about this because I've actually been thinking about making a few games myself.
Yeah.
But I haven't really got around to it. I know I have plans to work on a trading card game, and right now I'm just working on some basic stuff like what kind of cards I want to build, what setup.
Yeah. Well, Steam is kind of like tough to break into because like right now I have like 1,400, 1,500 yes votes. Apparently no votes don't matter, so that's cool. And the average...
Why do they have no votes if that doesn't matter?
I guess it's more for your information.
They put it there to make it feel balanced.
I guess. Like, I think it's more for your information, but apparently, like, they give you... Here, this might...
Because, like, every single game I've ever seen on Steam Greenlight, like where the people, like, what you've done where you show, like, the pie charts and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, pretty much every game that isn't, like, you know, straight to the top number one, like some games are. But pretty much any game that isn't that is like completely 50-50 split yeses and nos.
Well, okay, I mean, let me load up Steam so my quality might drop slightly for a second as it... Pizzerian, I have 103 comments, 1,410 yes votes. Ouch, 2,144 no votes, but that's a 39 to 59, or 39
ratio,
yeah.
so it wouldn't get through the U.S. Congress, is what you're saying.
Well,
because you need the 2/3 majority.
But the average of the top 50 is a 47 to 53. So actually, even the games that are in the top 50 have more no votes than yes votes. Just saying. But I'm 27% of the way to the top 100.
Hooray.
Yeah, but I guess that also, like, you will be sitting around and then one day you'll just, like, jump, like, 10% because they greenlit, like, 50 games or something. So all the games that were at the top are no longer there. So you get moved up, which is cool. But it is tough. And I actually sent out, like, 50 emails about a week ago announcing that I was on Steam Greenlight and that, like, hey, you know, my game exists. I have gotten 0 responses. Like, not even, like, and I regularly search and try to see if anyone, like, any of the sites that I sent emails to have featured me. No one, like, there haven't even been any silent hits. Like, I think my game is kind of on its way out.
You think
It's
that,
okay,
like,
Jeddy. We can give you a hug at MagFest.
Yes, if I'm there. You won't. You're not going to be there. I mean, unless you, like, fly out from beautiful sunny California.
Well, I was going
Just
to
give you a hug.
transport myself because the transporter is going to be invented next week.
Oh, okay. But then how will you get back?
Oh, how will I get back? Yeah. Oh, is hitchhiking still a thing?
Isn't it illegal? Or is it just illegal if it's on the highway?
I think we can ask the internet that question.
I think hitchhiking is supposed to be illegal in America.
GameCola.net, the only way we can reach MagFest is through hitchhiking.
That's a video game genre that has been left largely untapped. The hitchhiking genre.
Is that
When was the last time hitchhiking was even something you could do in a game, let alone
That
the
sounds
focus
like
of it?
something. That sounds like something you could very easily put in like an adventure game.
Let's get on it, people.
I'm thinking, like, wouldn't that fit in, like, Grand Theft Auto or something? Or would you just
No, in
steal
Grand
a car?
Theft Auto, you just take the car. I think hitchhiking might be a step backwards.
Well, what if you want to play? Well, you could play.
Oh, wait. I'm sorry, I lied. The ending of 999. Alice is a hitchhiker there.
But is it part of gameplay? Like, do you actually, like, do they actually have you and you, like, press X to stick out your thumb? Like,
No, but it's a start.
It's an after game bonus. They have a picture of her hitchhiking, and then in the next game, apparently that's a very important thing which gets brought up. So that's another question people have is, you know, when they do series games, how far in advance do you think they plan the next game in the series?
oh yeah, like, 'cause
I can answer this one because I just finished the Mass Effect trilogy.
Oh, what did you think of the ending?
Honestly, no, I played with the extended cut DLC.
Oh, okay.
And I went back later to watch the original ending. I only got there's one ending that I'm saving for should I ever go back and play again. But I did see a couple of the endings and watch the original ones. Anyhow, I'm like the only person on the internet who will say this, but I actually liked the ending, the couple of endings. But that's also because I was not as wild about the rest of the series as a lot of other people were, because it would have taken a lot to disappoint me more than I already had been disappointed by the series. I really liked the individual games. 1 was very good, 3 was very good, 2 was a roller coaster between awesome and awful for me, but as a whole, continuity-wise, there were several problems that I've been noting in a series of posts on my personal blog on Weebly. I've been calling them Mass Defect 1, 2, and now I'm writing up 3. So there have been a lot of issues that I've noticed with this series as a whole, in addition to all of the ups and downs that each individual game has. So I was okay with the ending because it wasn't a letdown for me because so much of the parts that preceded it were a letdown that it actually felt like the first time anything I did actually made a difference, instead of just changing up the flavor a little bit of, oh, well, this person died, but this other person took their place, and you're going to this planet anyhow. The exact same thing's going to happen, just different people who are saying the dialogue. I'm like, that's not really my actions impacting the galaxy the way that I was led to believe at first.
Yeah.
So the fact that the very end of the last game, you actually changed the fate of the galaxy. That's a cool thing. That's kind of what I wanted all along. So I was okay with the ending, but I can understand why people might have been upset. So anyhow, so I've been, going back to the question, I've been playing through these games for a couple of months now. And at the beginning of the first game, it kind of sounded like they had a general idea of where they wanted to go with it, you know, just build the world and then set something up and then develop it. And then the second game was like, you know what? We really don't like anything that we did with the first game. Not the gameplay, not the story, not the tone. We're just going to throw it all out and just occasionally reference back because, you know what? We're going to do a reboot. We're going to do a franchise reboot and just label it as a sequel. And then the third one built off of that, and it's like, actually, we kind of did like the first game. There's a lot of stuff that we want to draw on, so let's bring that back together and try and harmonize the two of them into a game. So I don't know. I found a couple of things, like I think they had a general idea of some big story points, like when they put in big decisions of, I think I know what we're going to do with this one, but there are other times you're like, well, we're going to have this happen, and I guess we'll deal with it later. We'll think about it later. Like, I did not get the sense that there was a really deliberate plan for the entire franchise. Like, maybe an outline, but more likely a couple of good ideas, like, let's make sure we include this in the next game, and let's make sure that this is a point that we come back to. But I didn't get the sense of continuity that I was really hoping for with a game like that.
I'm trying to think of a game series that was like very, like from the beginning there was continuity with it. Like
Pizzerian.
I think there has to be multiple games in the series. No offense, Jeddy.
Yes, well, one day I may come out with a Pizzerian DX, you know, Game Boy Color. There will be at least maybe 8 colors. Sorry, anyway, what were you saying?
I'm looking at, like, my games.
Well,
I'm trying to think. I don't really have
I
anything.
feel like with, I was going to mention Phoenix Wright.
Lego Star Wars. Lego Star Wars probably had the plot planned out pretty far ahead.
Yeah. But with Phoenix Wright, I feel like people like to make fun of the Phoenix Wright series for taking place in California when it clearly takes place in Japan. But I feel like with the first game, it was a great decision to make it take place in California because of the locations in the first game. You need to have somewhere where there are movie studios nearby and where there are earthquakes. Los Angeles, I mean, perfectly fits into that setting.
Yeah, interesting.
But then with the second game where they include Japanese villages, it starts becoming less relevant. But they didn't know that the second game was going to be released in English. They were hoping for it, obviously, but they didn't know for certain at that point.
Well, what was I going to say? Oh, well, I was going to bring up, there was a recent GameCola Facebook discussion topic of, you know, how related do you like your sequels to be? Because you end up with so many games like the entire Final Fantasy series where none of the games really have anything to do with each other. So, like, how do they really consider those to be sequels? You know, how do they consider those to be the same series when the only thing is, like, vaguely the genre, you know?
There are a couple
I say the same thing about Zelda, except people slap me when I say that.
Well, I mean, okay, Final Fantasy series, like, it does usually, you know, it's like a fantasy medieval setting, and, like, there are chocobos, like, there are certain world concepts, you know, airships, the dragoons and the dark knights and like that kind of stuff, blue mages, but
repetitive random battles, you know.
do they
I'm gonna get slapped for that too, but
do they reference other like Final Fantasy like areas? Like, is it sort of this? Because like with the Legend of Zelda, they've come out and said like the way it works is, you know, it's the same place, but you know it's different times, and Link gets reincarnated.
Yeah.
And some of the games are the same Link as other games, and some of them aren't. And they made the whole timeline thing. But the point is that it's the same. Like, it's always the Hyrule place, but then it changes over time. Is Final Fantasy think like that at all, or is it just
no? Final Fantasy is completely different.
Yeah.
Here's a completely new universe, new characters, it has absolutely nothing whatsoever to do with any other game except, like Jeddy was talking about, those thematic elements that you can depend on being in every Final Fantasy game after they're introduced.
Yeah, there's a character named Sid. There are chocobos that you ride on. There are airships. You know, red mage.
Is it Sid spelled with a C?
Yeah.
Yeah.
When was that? Was that first in 4, or was that another one's first?
That was 3. Well, actually, I've only played the DS remake of 3, so it may not have been the original 3. But I'm assuming. I mean, there's a dude with an airship named Sid, so I would assume that's when it started. I don't. Oh, you know what? I think there was a Sid in 2. Now that I think about it, I think he was the dude with the library, and then
I've only ever seen a playthrough of 4, not 2. I haven't seen 2. So I don't know. I feel like I should get around to it.
But again, I've also only played the Dawn of Souls remake of 2, so they could have also added in a Sid, after the fact. So somewhere between 2 and 4, they introduced Sid.
And you could have named your character Sid in the first one.
True.
Well, no, it would have to be like CIDD, wouldn't it?
Could you not do space?
I think you can put in a space.
Well, yeah, but then it would be a space.
Something.
Like it's gonna include the space. I don't think it like deletes the space. You'd be Sid's space. Like every time.
Yeah, but they never talk to you directly like that. That's just for the battle.
That's true. That's a good point. I don't know.
So unless you put the space in like after the I, and you'd be like CID.
Could I be like space CID?
Space Sid. Sid in space.
But I don't know. I guess that's something that always sort of bugged me because I played the original Final Fantasy, then I played Final Fantasy 2, which is 4, and then I played Final Fantasy 3, which is 6, and
gosh, don't start with that, please. I'm gonna get a headache.
But the thing is that I played through all of the originals, and by the time that 6 rolled around, I was like, I like Final Fantasy, but why isn't this any the same at all? Like it already bugged me at the ripe old age of like 8 years old or whatever. It's like they call it.
That's sort of how I feel about the Zelda timeline theory. Is that when was that created? When the Wii game came out is when they invented the timeline theory.
Well, the game that the whole timeline. I don't know when the timeline theory came out, but the game that sort of like enables the whole timeline theory to exist is Ocarina, because that's like where everything splits off and stuff. So I'd imagine that it would almost definitely have to be after that, unless you want to count. But 2 came. Legend of Zelda: Adventure of Link came after 1, and that was the beginning of the timeline, Zelda timeline, the creation.
I just feel like it was something they made to fit the games after the fact, and they said, oh yeah, the games were really all in the same universe and all related all along, when really it's like, no, you just made that up afterwards. I don't like Wind Waker, but yeah, Wind Waker is a direct sequel taking place 100 years after Ocarina of Time. It just made me sad because I liked all the things in the N64 games, and then it's like, no, we're skipping ahead 100 years. I'm like, oh, now everybody I loved and cared about is dead.
Yeah, that's a problem I have sometimes when they do sequels, because you get really invested in the characters in one, and they say, we're going to do another game, but we're going to set it a significant portion of time in the future. And inevitably, and they do this with TV shows and movies too, but inevitably, all of the characters that you like no longer resemble the characters that they used to be. It's not ever a logical progression that I've seen of where these characters would presumably be in another 10, 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
It's, well, we needed to throw somebody in jail, so we'll pick the nice guy who was always a hero, and we need someone to be a psychotic murderer, so let's do the, the quiet little girl who was the mage. Why do you have to do that? Just let us have...
Because, shock value. Ooh, you weren't expecting the nice guy to be the villain. We sure pulled a ruse upon you.
I mean, I mentioned this, I think, on a previous podcast. I played through at least the default, without all the DLC, of Final Fantasy IV, The After Years, which was, I think 20 years, something like that, after the original game. And aside from all of the other issues with the game, just story-wise, I'm like... I don't really recognize a lot of these characters anymore. Like, what are you doing? I don't have the same vibe. And then what was the other one that I was just thinking about? I'll come back to it. There was another really good example that I had that took place several years later.
Golden Sun?
Different. No, no, I take that back. Golden Sun was okay. Because I played the 3 that I am aware of that exist. Dark, I'm so done with this being the last one. And they were okay with character continuity. I remember that being fine. So that's an exception.
Yeah, Fire Emblem seems pretty good at character continuity as well. I just want to throw that out there.
The problem with this timeline, now that I'm kind of really looking at it, is like they've basically closed off their possibilities to make games that like take place in some of these periods. Like there's a part like right between Ocarina, whatever, I don't care, Arena. Ocarina of Time to Wind Waker is the era without a hero. So you can't put a game in between those anymore now. And, they put all these things, and it's like, no, these are the way it happens. So now the only place left is after all of these games. Where like if you look at it, like all of them are in like it's mixed up. Like the order that the games came out, they're all mixed in with wherever everything is. That if any of those words I just said made sense.
You can do that. I know Metroid does that, where the timeline doesn't exactly match the order of all the games that are released. So, for example, the Game Boy Advance one, Metroid Fusion. Isn't it Metroid Fusion chronologically takes place at the end?
Well, no. I mean, you've got Metroid, Metroid 2, Super Metroid, and then Metroid Fusion. So the main games are all sensibly in line. And then you've got the Metroid Prime trilogy, which shows up, is inserted between Metroid and Metroid 2. And then you've got Doesn't Count Metroid Other M, which comes between Metroid 2 and... comes between Super Metroid and Metroid Fusion. So it's the main games, and then you just have little insertions of the 3D stuff. But as far as the 2D games go, they're all in chronological order. And if you count Zero Mission's a remake, so that doesn't matter.
So wait, has there ever actually been an origin? Is the original Metroid supposed to be like the first time Samus did anything, or is it like a...
I don't know about the first time Samus did anything, but that was supposed to be, as I recall, her first encounter with the space pirates.
Right, but like one of the things that always seems to be a problem, and I haven't played the more recent one, so I can't really say how much of a problem it is, but like they have to keep coming up with excuses as to why Samus doesn't just have all of the things she had the last game.
Well, so they would need to do that in a number of other games. You look at any Mega Man game, any Zelda game that's in the same universe as the one before it, like the Wind Waker and Link rides a choo-choo and Link rides a boat, all of those. You have to wonder, wait, why do I have to get the bow and arrows again? Did I donate this to charity? Like, what did I do with this? So looking at the, the Metroid games, they at least try to give an explanation, and for that I give them credit, even if sometimes it's... Actually, no, it hasn't been a little iffy. It's actually been a reasonable explanation, but they only do that in the Prime trilogy and Fusion that I can think of off the top of my head, and the excuse Fusion, they have in Other M is just not acceptable.
That's what I was saying. I was like, that's probably one of the bigger... Like, if they had just ignored it and said, you know what, no, we're just not going to explain it, why you can't use that, would probably have gone over better than what they ended up going with.
Well, I mean, there's always the prequel Metroid High School.
Gosh dang it, Jeddy. You don't talk about the dark times.
Well, what I like was the Prince of Persia trilogy, where that exact same thing happens. He just starts at 0 at the beginning of every single game, but at the third game, he just picks up a stick and says, why does this always happen to me? It's like, why do I always end up losing my super cool weapon? Now I start from just the stick I picked up off of the ground.
Have you ever... Well, I know Metroid Prime does this, but I don't know of many other games off the top of my head. But like the games that like start you out with like everything that you are going to have in the game, and then take it away from you.
Yeah, Castlevania Symphony of the Night.
Right.
They did that.
Is that... Do you enjoy that? Because I always feel like that would be more disappointing to me than encouraging. It's like, well, you just showed me all this cool stuff I could do, and now I can't do it anymore, and the beginning of the game is going to feel really boring now.
Yeah.
I think it depends on how they handle it. What they did with Metroid Prime, I think, was very good because they give you the rundown on a couple of the basics, the grapple beam, the morph ball, so that you have a little bit of a tutorial at the very beginning when you're still in the right mindset for tutorials, so that when you get those back later in the game, it's already second nature to you. You don't need to slow down the gameplay to figure out, oh man, how do I have to use this thing now? But on top of that, they keep giving you new things after that. They don't just stop there. It's not like you are fully powered, let's take it all away, and you'll work your way back to that. It's you're at half power at the beginning of the game. We only give you a couple of situations to practice with, and then we take them away. And then you gradually build them back up. But until you get them, you don't really need them. It's not like, oh, I am at such a disadvantage because I don't have super missiles. It's like, well, I could use super missiles here, but I'm totally fine with everything I have right now. It's all about the game design. I don't think there's anything wrong with the concept of starting off powerful and then getting weakened, as long as there's a good story reason for it, and as long as it doesn't feel like a punishment for simply playing the game.
Yeah, actually, this has been something that I've been like arguing with myself about because I've been thinking that maybe a demo of Pizzerian would help people buy it. But the beginning of the game is kind of slow, so if I just gave them like the first 10 minutes of the game, they would be like, wow, this is the most boring game, you know? So I've been debating about trying to which ship would I want to give them and what equipment or whatever would I want to give them so that they can get an idea of what the gameplay would be like if they progressed a bit.
Something just came into my mind. That's basically what happened with Ghostbusters 2, the movie, is that they just started back down at the bottom of the food chain again.
Yeah.
Did that happen in the video game?
Which game?
There were multiple Ghostbusters video games, weren't there?
Oh, sorry, you're talking about the Ghostbusters game? I don't think anybody really cared about the Ghostbusters games, though.
Never mind.
I don't think they had large thematic elements. I think their only purpose nowadays is to show up in, retro video game reviewers' subscription boxes.
Well, okay, going back to the some of the original things we were talking about, though, with games that actually do have like a continuation of the world from the first to the second, the original Dragon Warrior and then Dragon Warrior 2 actually contains the original Dragon Warrior world. I thought that was really cool when I was playing that.
Yeah, I didn't like much else about Dragon Warrior 2, but I did appreciate that. And they did that with 3 as well, because 3 takes place in the same world. Then I think 4, 5, and 6 take place in a different realm.
Yeah.
But 1, 2, and 3 are all together. And yeah, I think it was very neat that they had the touchstone of, oh yeah, I know this place.
Yeah.
I used to beat up slimes here. I got killed by a ghost here.
In the first gen and second gen Pokemon games, with Gold and Silver and then later Heart Gold and Soul Silver, they actually let you go back to after you beat the main story of Gold, Silver, Heart Gold, Soul Silver. You could go to the Kanto region from the first game, and you could fight all the gym leaders there too, and they were pretty much the same, but you saw some changes, like one of the guys who was a gym leader in the first game, he got moved up to like the final 4 set of boss characters that you fight at the end of the game. And so you go back to Kanto and you find his daughter is running where his gym was.
Yeah.
And then your rival in the first game, Blue or Gary or whatever you want to call him, is the gym leader of the 8th gym, the last one. And so you fight him, and then you can fight your character, well, the purported main character of the first game in the second game. You can go up to a mountain and you challenge a representation of the main character from the first game.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Oh, so I'm playing Angry Birds Epic on the iOS. This entire podcast.
Does it have world continuity?
Yeah, with the original Angry Birds.
It just glitched out. It just completely glitched out.
Did you launch a bird and it actually came out of the iPad?
No, somebody counterattacked me and destroyed my yellow bird, who is named Chuck for some reason in this version.
Okay.
All of the birds have names except for the red bird. I just call him Red Bird. Does he have an official canonical name?
I don't know. I didn't
Red
know
Bird
any of
gives
the other
you wings.
What? Since when do they have names?
They have names. When I rescued the yellow bird, he's the wizard, and it's like, okay, Chuck has now been added to your party.
The wizard?
You can play as
What?
Chuck.
Chuck is
The
such
wizard?
a wizardly name.
Yeah, so he's the wizard.
What game is this?
Angry Birds Epic.
What is it like?
Released. It's an RPG.
What?
Stupid.
Have you heard about Angry Birds Stella, which is what they're working on now? The tentative release date is 2014.
World of Angry
Stella.
Birds.
Streetcar named Desire themed Angry Birds?
Stella!
Let me read from Wikipedia. Angry Birds Stella, Best Friends Forever, is an upcoming puzzle
What?
video game that will be the
What?
second spin-off of Angry Birds. This is
What?
based around Stella, the pink bird, and her adventures with her friends.
What?
The game is marketed at women and girls.
What?
Okay.
What? Huh?
This is a thing which exists. They're trying to do a story-based Angry Birds.
No.
For 4 girls, spelled the number 4 space GURLZ. I'm sure. 'Cause, if there's anything that is well appreciated in the modern gaming community, it is segregating games specifically for women.
Yeah, and making a game targeted at women which features a pink main character.
Do not want.
I remembered the game that I was thinking of that did the, X amount of years later. Mega Man ZX Advent, which is direct sequel to Mega Man ZX, which takes place sometime after the events of Mega Man Zero. And in ZX Advent, minor spoiler, there's one point where you're doing a mission in the old destroyed Resistance base that you once ran around in one of the Mega Man Zero games. So you're like, oh, cool, it's the Resistance base, except it's half covered in dirt and broken glass everywhere, and it looks like there was some big war there, and probably everybody I ever loved from the Zero series died. Like, that's sort of the feeling that you get. So at first it's like, oh, cool, and then you think about it, and you're like, this probably shouldn't be so destroyed. It's kind of depressing.
What was it? I was thinking of the original Lufia, where you play at the beginning as your ancestor. So at the beginning of the game, you're like at the end of what is effectively the second game, which was the prequel. So you're like all powered up, super strong, ready to go fight the final boss, and then you actually start at the beginning of the game after that. And
They do the same thing with Castlevania Lords of Shadow, Mirror of Fate.
Yeah.
Because apparently that's a sequel to the PlayStation game, which I never played. So
Hold on, where is it? I didn't say the word hips. What is it that what did I call the April Fools? Hold on, GameCola.net reviewing games before they're cool. Hold on, and I had Castlevania Shadow Requiem of the Cursed Blood Moon and Darkness. Like, they just keep adding, like, dark, so gothic, words to the name of Castlevania.
Castlevania, the shadow of the dark brotherhood of darkness and evil and bad dreams.
Like, you guys can... I feel like I'm sad that more people didn't like this, because I like my recent fabricated news of the North American localization of The Great Ace Attorney. Like, these two articles, I feel like, were really shining moments in my writing career, and nobody really read them.
if I could just be a nerd, what were those things you shared pictures from? Was that like a movie or something?
It's the anime The Big O, which I did tag The Big O.
Oh.
Like right around the time that the whole news of the new Phoenix Wright game was coming out, I happened to be rewatching The Big O since I used to watch it all the time on Cartoon Network. And I was like, man, he really looks like Phoenix Wright. So I just made up this thing. And so those two, go back and read them because I really
They're hilarious.
They are pretty good. And I think I was talking about how Lufia, in the first game, you play as the descendant of the main character in the second game, but then the third game was garbage.
You played as garbage?
Yeah, literally.
Oh.
It's like the...
Interesting design choice. You gotta give him credit.
It's like the trash heap from Fraggle Rock.
I know what you're talking about.
Sorry.
Jeddy, you keep referencing these old TV shows. They're too mainstream for us to recognize.
I had a weird incident recently where I was talking, like I was in a group of people and I was talking with someone about Pogs, and all of the other people had no clue what Pogs were. And I was like, are you guys alive? Like,
Pogs are hard to explain to people who don't know what
it
they are.
is. And I don't even really know what they were supposed to be.
No. It's really easy. You say it's kind of like Jax.
Does anyone
Is
know?
is that like Tiddlywinks?
It's
What
not quite
on
Tiddlywinks.
earth? What? Are these merit badges?
I got a Boy Scout badge for Tiddlywinks.
Merit badges that you
Okay.
trade?
Just-
I don't.
I just unlocked new classes for my characters, so that's good.
You should take history. That's a good class.
So let's see. Now my wizard is now a rain bird, and his moves are acid rain and healing rain.
Yeah, let's make sure we don't get those mixed up.
Yeah.
All right. Was it left hand healing and right hand acid, or right hand healing and left hand acid? Could try both.
Both.
I'm not sure what'll happen.
I'll start with both and then just continue with the right one.
So
That's
basically,
like,
the difference
what do
would
they
be
have
tap
from,
and hold and then tap. That's mainly the difference. Tap and hold and then tap. And I have gotten into situations where I tapped a bit too long and it thought I was doing a tap and hold. Yeah, that's always sad when that happens.
So we do have some fan mail.
Do we?
Yeah,
well,
actually,
Hasn't it? Or am I just
Well-
have I just not been around all the time we have fan mail?
not only has it been a while, this one's been sitting around since a couple of months ago.
So,
Because last month I was too busy to actually record and I just used Michael Gray's recording. So this one has been sitting around for 2 months. But it is from GameCola superfan No Lynch. So,
Hi, No Lynch.
yeah. Sorry this took so long. Are we ready?
Yeah.
ready.
Okay, fan email. Dear GameCola, hello to all you wonderful people on the GameCola staff. I'm wondering if you would like to be part of the next generation of refrigerator owners. Ha, okay, serious time now.
Wait, refrigerators? I was interested.
no, I mean, next gen refrigerators?
Yeah, they have like a touch screen and stuff. Have you seen those?
Is it like those soda machines where like you have like the 50 different like options and you click on it, gives you like 10 options of like a Minute Maid, and you press the button and it gives you that specific one.
And
But
then like
instead
cherry
it's like
cherry
with
Coke.
bananas and milk and
Cherry Coke doesn't actually taste like cherry Coke because it's actually just the base Coke plus like weird, vaguely cherry flavoring.
okay, their high C tastes pretty good. Okay, their fruit punch high C,
Yeah.
is perfect.
It's also you also have to like let it pour out a little bit before you
Oh,
like
yeah,
actually.
you have to like clean it with what you want to drink. Otherwise, it'll get a tiny bit of like lemon lime.
Yeah, whatever the last
Third.
person.
Yeah, in your like Sprite. Oh wait, no, that would
Wow,
be okay.
this is amazing.
That wouldn't be so bad.
What are you? What's amazing, Michael?
So apparently Burger King installed them in 2011.
Yeah.
They've only just arrived here, like last month.
Really?
Why
time
did it take
dilation
them
and
3
stuff.
years to hit the West Coast? I know they're like
Weird.
headquartered in Florida, but
Oh, that explains why I've had them for so long.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we've had
they
them.
don't-
We've had them for a while, but only in like a couple of specific restaurants. I think probably because Coke is like a really big,
Oh yeah.
World
Georgia.
of Coke is like a half-hour drive
Yeah.
from here, so it's not.
Yeah.
It's,
anyway, I'm just a little upset that it took them 3 years to bring it to the West Coast.
I mean, they're big and heavy. What do you expect? Have you ever seen the inside of one of them? Like when they open it
No,
up
I have
for
never been
refill?
inside a soda machine. What's it like? Is it a world
I
of
said
magic
seen.
wonder?
I did not say been inside of, Michael. So don't you even try to twist my words around. I said
Is it like
seen.
it's like the world's greatest water park? Except, do they shrink you down to like size so you can do like the
Yeah.
water slide?
Gosh dang it,
And-
Michael! I just
There-
wanted to talk about how it looked
There
cool
are
on the inside with all the little cartridges that you had to.
All the gnomes that are in there that are just like cranking the
can't-
pumps and.
Read the rest of the email. I can't deal with you guys. Just read the rest of the email.
Firstly, I would like to thank you all for being part of the GameCola staff. I truly enjoy just about everything published on the site. Also, thank you to Jeddy for publishing my fan submission a couple months ago. You are all very awesome guys and gals, and it's always a pleasure to hear or read from you. But since I'm here, I should probably contribute to the conversations, whatever they may be. Okay, a few questions for those on the cast. In games where you can customize your character, do you try to make it look like you, or do you try to make an individual character, or does it just depend? Let's start with that one because there's a couple more. So do you try to make your customizable characters look like you?
Yeah, usually, probably.
Yeah, I think I do vaguely, but like a cooler looking version of me.
I think the last game I played, which had the customizable character effect, was NHL 2003. And so what I did was I had an Abraham Lincoln, I had a zombie, and Adam Carolla.
Yeah, sometimes I just try to make funny looking characters.
But to be fair, I think if I played, my computer is not exactly the brightest box in the tool shed, and so I don't usually install most high-end or most big PC games, which is where most of those places where you would get in-depth 3D modeling, character customization sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But I feel like if it was a game where the body type was kind of set, but like Skyrim, I don't think I'd try to make it look like myself. But if it's something like Terraria or Minecraft, where it's kind of really simplistic and very general, then I usually try to make those look kind of like me.
I don't like the idea of running myself, because the way I play video games, I intentionally throw myself off of buildings. I get blown up very often, so the idea of me personally getting blown up and shot down and skewered and all sorts of things over and over again, I play games to escape from reality. I don't need to see myself doing that over and over again. So I usually design myself either as an attractive female, or I design myself as just a really cool looking dude.
I like to think of it as sort of this consistent caricature of me, not actually me, but this sort of character that it still represents me, but it carries over from game to game. So it's still that same, I'm playing as that same sort of created character.
Yeah.
In different games.
Did you guys get the images that I sent you?
Oh, I didn't. Hold on.
Yes.
Okay, there's another one, and the one that I was actually thinking of was Dark Souls, I think.
What game is this?
I don't know, it was just some, wrestling game. But, okay, the one that I was actually thinking of was, I've seen a screenshot where a dude was in, Dark Souls as Shrek. Again, it was Shrek. And the other guy is like, dude, I'm not going to fight you, just leave. I just like people who do that kind of stupid stuff. I'm going to make my customizable character be Shrek, and I'm going to play as Shrek in this very serious video game.
Well, what I get sometimes, because I play a lot of Nancy Drew games, and they're first-person adventure games, so you never actually see her body or what she looks like. People ask me, well, what do you think she looks like? What do you picture her looking like as you play the game? And is there a reason for doing that? There are hundreds of books with her picture on the cover. That's what she looks like.
Yeah.
It's not exactly a secret.
Yeah. Here's the Battletoads Skyrim mod.
I don't know what I was expecting, but it wasn't that.
Wasn't there somebody who made a Paul Franzen character? That was an award for of the month.
Yeah, he reported to be in, what was it, Soul Calibur 4? One of those fighting games,
yeah.
I sort of thought.
I think so.
Long time ago.
Hold on, here you go. Speaking of Soul Calibur.
You will be sharing all of these as links in the podcast post, right?
Yes. So everyone can see Shrek in Soul Calibur.
And anybody listening to us on iTunes is out of luck.
Yeah,
so you gotta visit our website, GameCola.net.
Yes, sorry. Should we move on to the next question?
Probably.
Okay. Oh, if it hasn't already been asked, what games are you currently playing?
It's been asked. I don't think we answered.
I don't think we actually talked about it on this podcast.
Well, that's always a relevant question.
Yeah.
If I can go first, particularly, I've been playing Super Mario Sunshine, trying to 100% complete it, and then Mario Kart 8, which I recently bought. And one of them I'm having a very fun time with, and one of them I'm having no fun with at all, and it's a chore. Guess which one is which?
Well, 100%ing anything can often turn into a chore, so I'm going to go with Sunshine on that one.
That is an accurate assumption of what is happening.
That's what happened with me when I played Sunshine. I stopped at the hotel level, I believe.
Hotel Mario?
Well, okay, look. If I can go into my rant that I've been trying to digress into, the
Please
whole
do.
podcast. Because I was playing it earlier today. And it's just, so in all the 3D Mario games, the basic, platform ones, 64, Sunshine, Galaxy 1 and 2, you get 120 shines, right? That's the you completed it 100% sort of deal there, or stars or whatever. So in Mario Sunshine, there are 96 level shine that you get from doing levels or finding the secret shines. There's 8 level shines in each of like the 7 different sort of level worlds, and then there's a shine you get for getting 100 coins in that world, and then there are 2 secret shines, and and then with all the extra shines hidden around other places, that totals up to 96. The rest you get from turning in your collection of blue coins that are scattered throughout the level. Now here's the thing. There are 240 blue coins, and they're pretty much all hidden to some extent. And there's no indication of where they are half the time.
Yeah.
You'll probably, if you're looking for them, you'll probably find about half of them and then be completely lost as to the whereabouts of the rest. Even looking through walkthroughs, it's still confusing and tedious.
Have you tried watching YouTube videos?
No, that's what I do.
Written walkthroughs.
That's
Oh,
what I do. I'm following these people around, but the problem is that unless you get like a really specific video that like highlights everything, because sometimes you have to play like a specific level or the blue coin won't show up, and there's like no reason that it shouldn't show up. Like most of them usually show up in any level, and you can get them in any level, but then there are like, a few that will only show up in like level 3 out of the 8 for no really good reason other than they kind of thought it was convenient to do that. But you wouldn't know that off the top of your head. So if you didn't have a guide, you would have to go searching through every level trying to find these blue coins.
Yeah.
And there's twice as many blue coins as there are possible shines in the game, which is just ridiculous. There's 30 in each world, and it's a pain, and it's making me hate Mario Sunshine.
That's the reason why there are so few speedruns of Super Mario Sunshine, is specifically for that reason.
Well, like, the other thing about it is that Mario Sunshine is I don't understand why this flies under the radar so much, but it's an incredibly glitchy game. It's, like, surprisingly poorly put together in some places.
Like what?
Like,
I don't actually remember any specific glitches.
It's kind of... Like, when you're playing through it the first time, you're not really quite as adventurous with all the stuff you're given. So, in that, if you stay on the like direct path that the developers intended for you to go, you probably won't run into too much of a problem. But it's usually because you've got the water jetpack, and that's a cool idea because it gives you a lot of freedom. But the problem is that the developers didn't always account for that. So, like, you'll end up through walls that are really... You can, like, get into situations where you'll just kind of get flung around, and the game doesn't quite know what to do with places that are pretty easy to get to with a water jetpack that makes you fly. But then there are still other things, like in Pinta Village, which is one of the later levels, like the last one, there are these clover things that are flying around, or whatever. And, like, I was just walking around the level... just grabbing stuff because you're getting red coins or whatever. And all of a sudden, it, like, magnet attaches me to one that was through a wall. I was, like, nowhere near it, and it just teleported me through a wall, and I'm just holding on to it. And there's nothing I can do because it's in a wall. And so I was just in a wall. And I wasn't even trying to do it. Like, it's not just an easy game to break. It's, like, a game that will break accidentally. And then another one of the problems is that they come up with wacky physics that they want to keep trying out on you, and wacky concepts that only come up like once or twice, like the pachinko machine level.
Which was one of the worst levels I've ever played in a Mario game.
It is terrible. You've got like no control. And like the trampoline doesn't even work half the time. That like sends you up. Did you ever, or anyone else who's played through it, did you ever do the Yoshi one that you have to go on the long boat ride to get to?
Anything having to do with Yoshi was more or less miserable in that game also. But yes, I did that one, and it took me I remember many, many, many tries to get that right. Okay.
Did you fall for the trick where they put the pipe at the end?
Ooh, I don't remember that. I don't think so. I think I actually got it. It was just a matter of, I think the issue I had was trying to land on the boat properly, like line up my jump.
The little lily pad thing?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, like, so there's the poison, you're on a lily pad, and there's poison water that if you touch it, you die. And you've got to collect these red coins as you're going down this current of poison water.
Oh, that's not the one I was thinking of. I was thinking
Okay.
the one in Delfino Plaza, where you have to ride the boat like way the heck across, who knows where.
Right, to get to the island.
That's as far as I remember. I don't actually remember what was on the island.
See what happens is you get to that island, and then you use Yoshi to like unclog a pipe that has like his Yoshi goop thing.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
and then
okay,
you
that's
go
what you brought
into that, and there's a level in that after
Right.
doing all
Okay.
of that.
Okay.
But at the end of so you go down the thing, right? And you're like, well, this is the first time I ever played it, and I'm not going to get all the red coins on my first try. But you get there, and there's this pipe, and you're like, oh, okay. So it's going to give me multiple tries. So I'll just jump in the pipe, it'll put me back, and I'll just keep trying, and if I die, I'll start over. You jump in the pipe, it sends you back to Delfino Plaza.
Oh.
Like,
Yeah, I don't think I did that.
before you get the Yoshi. It's an awful trick, and it's mean. And I had to go all the way back and do the Yoshi hopping on the boats thing again.
Which no one wants to do.
So what I ended up having to do, just this will end my story, was I would go down the path, and then there were walls that were kind of there just to hold the water in, like on a conceptual level of why the water wasn't spilling out all over the place. But they were just big enough that you could walk on them. So after I got to the end, I would just kind of jump carefully onto the walls and sort of just walk my way back to the beginning of the level, and then hop on the lily pad and ride it down again and try to get the coins. It took forever, but I was not going to risk getting a game over and having to do the Yoshi thing for a third time. And so that's the kind of thing that Mario Sunshine has been making me do, and it is making me appreciate it less as a quality game. And that's the end of my story.
So, Michael, what are you playing aside from Angry Birds?
Recently I played Legend of Zelda: A Link Between Worlds, and I find it interesting that's the English title because the Japanese title is just Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past 2, unless I'm mistaken.
Well, I thought that A Link to the Past wasn't actually the name in Japanese. I mean, hold on, because...
Oh, right, I can't pronounce Japanese, but you can, so...
Hold on, let me just go look up on Wikipedia. Zelda no Densetsu Kamigami no Triforce of the Gods.
Mm-hmm.
So
the second one is Zaruda no Densetsu Kamigami no Torai. Yeah, but it's got the 2 at the end.
hold on.
So
Yeah, it is literally Kamigami no Triforce Tsu.
It's all Greek to me.
Yes, exactly. It is Greek, actually.
I'm just saying, I find it interesting that they make it a direct sequel in the Japanese title. They literally have like a 2 in there, but in the English version, they don't.
So you were playing Link Between Worlds. That's the one you were playing.
Yeah.
Is it good?
It's pretty good. There were some... Yeah, no, I'd say the gimmick of it was really good, and it was a nice sequel. There was another princess, which I liked, so now Princess Zelda has a friend to play with. I don't know. It's been so long I've forgotten what I wrote about the game. I could look it up if you forced me to.
Well, we established that I just got done playing the Mass Effect trilogy. So there's this void in my life where I've got, the next 40-plus hours of game time completely open. I have nothing else planned. So I just started, because I needed something fluffy and platformery, because that's really...
Like Mass Effect.
Yeah, let's go back and play that again. No, not yet. But just something basic. So I was looking for something easy, or maybe not easy, but something short. So I found I had Castlevania Rondo of Blood for Wii Virtual Console. And I fired that up. Found it was very much like Castlevania 1 and 2, despite the more sophisticated graphics and the anime-esque cutscenes and everything. It felt like Castlevania 2.5. because I played Castlevania 3 and it didn't feel like that. But anyways, so we're starting to play that and starting to realize that the Castlevania series is not quite as varied as I was originally hoping. There's a lot of the same enemies. Like we were saying with Dragon Warrior, you revisit the exact same first level from the original Castlevania going back into Dracula's castle before it branches off into some other places. But there's a lot of the same enemy types and the same backgrounds and the same traps, just in slightly different combinations. So it's still fun, and the controls feel a little bit better on this one. The difficulty seems to be on a much better scale than the first 3 games, anyhow. But I've been enjoying that. Okay, also been playing through Lego Indiana Jones 2 for the Wii with my wife. We've been doing co-op and sort of switching off. We had been playing together the whole time, and then she went off, ran around, and unlocked a bunch of stuff, which is good because it was a lot of stuff that I didn't feel like bothering with. So
is that the one with the like the big open world hub worlds for each of the stories?
It's strange. I haven't played any of the other Lego games that have hub worlds. I've only played the Star Wars 1 and 2 and the Lego Indiana Jones 1 and Batman. But yeah, it's got a big hub world, which was really confusing at first because they don't really explain it in-game very well. It's just sort of assumed that you figure out what's going on. Because we played our first mission, and I'm accustomed to having the big celebratory screen at the end saying, you beat the level, and here's our ending cutscene for the level, and here are the total studs that you collected. And instead, it's, you finished the level, and we're just going to pop you out on the next screen like it's another part of the stage, and you walk around, and then you go into another doorway somewhere, and the game continues. And we were sort of concerned at first because we were playing for half an hour the first time we sat down with it, and we're like, when do we have the opportunity to save and quit this level? Because we don't want to lose any of the progress that we've made, but we don't see any indication that we can stop ever. So once we finally figured out, wait a second, we just got out of the college, and then we went to the nuclear testing site, and now we're back at walking around it. Are all of these worlds connected? And then we figured it out, but it was not expressed very well in game.
It's a really weird system. I don't think they did it quite as much in the other games after that, but it was a really weird system. That's also the one where they started doing the split screen if you got far away, right?
Which I like, because that way you're not anchored, especially with the locations being as big as they are, you're not anchored to being within 30 feet of your partner. You can actually go off and explore and divide and conquer together, which is great. It's interesting because all of the problems that I had with most of the problems that the both of us had with Lego Indy 1 were completely fixed by this game, but they also introduced a whole bunch of new issues that are just as bad, if not worse. So, and I'm just sort of tired of that, because that happened with Mass Effect 2. All of the problems I had with the first game, they completely fixed in the second game, and then changed a whole lot of other stuff that didn't need to be changed, that was not broken, and then it's like, we're starting from scratch and giving this a shot, and maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. And I just want to see a game, gradually improve itself and build on itself instead of radically changing things every time. So Lego Indy 2 is doing a lot of that. And there's a lot of tedious challenges and things, so I don't know. Not really enjoying it. It's just nice to play through with somebody else.
Wasn't it the Lego games that sort of started the whole, like, I don't know, it feels like after the Legos came out, there was, like, the big co-op movement, almost, like, cooperative, like, two-player simultaneous wasn't really as much of a thing before that, and then they kind of started working with it. And then New Super Mario Bros. Wii came out, and it was 4 people at the same time playing. That was this whole barrel of monkeys.
Well, I thought it was like Little Big Planet, or did
Oh yeah, there was Little Big Planet.
Which one came first? I don't even know.
They were probably around the same time.
Well,
I think the first Lego, I mean, we can look this up, but I think the first Lego Star Wars being a earlier middle GameCube game probably would have come before Little Big Planet.
Let's see. I got it right here. Where is the copyright?
Oh, Lego Star Wars, the video game, 2005. 2001. Oh, wait, 2001?
Yeah, they also re-released it on the Wii with a compilation of 1 and 2.
I've got this one that says 2001 on it.
So
that would be like, it was like a release game. This was an early GameCube game. Maybe not. Maybe this is a copyright of the GameCube or something. Doesn't seem right. Yeah, this is just telling me that the GameCube.
Wait a second. Little Big Planet is a PS3 game.
Yeah. Little Big Planet definitely came after Lego Star Wars. I was thinking Mario, New Super Mario is a Wii and Little Big Planet. I don't know when they came out.
That would have been around the same time. I seem to recall it 2006.
It's looking like the video game was 2005 for Lego Star Wars.
See, New Super Mario Bros. Wii
It was 2006, it's saying. Oh, wait, Wii? Sorry.
Yeah, New Super Mario Bros. Wii was 2009. And then Little Big Planet is...
2008.
Ooh, just before. Is it? Wait, where is it? I'm not seeing it.
You're right. Yeah, because Lego Star Wars wouldn't have come out until... because it was all the prequels in the first one, so it wouldn't have come out until all the prequel movies had come out.
Yeah.
Which you're right. So 2005 is right. Yeah.
That must have been a GameCube copyright thing on it then, because it said copyright 2001 on it.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, this is the part that I'm sure our listeners are so thrilled because they're like, okay,
what dates? I want to know
research?
what date Lego Star Wars came out on.
We end up looking up a lot of dates on the podcast.
Yeah.
I've pretty much memorized, like, a lot of them. Like, I know when pretty much all the Nintendo consoles come out off the top of my head now.
Well, if I could interrupt, I managed to look up the thing which I wrote about Legend of Zelda: Link Between Worlds, and this is actually relevant, was the gimmick of the game is that there are 8 or so dungeons, and you can do them in basically any order you want, rather than a set order.
Like Mega Man.
Yeah, just like Mega Man, that's the idea. And so the way this ended up being is sort of like Mega Man in that, like the turtle dungeon... The item for the turtle dungeon is the wind sword.
Oh yeah, I remember you talking about this.
Yeah, it's nothing but wind in the turtle dungeon, and I forget all the other weapons, like the sand dungeon, so on and so forth. But it's relevant because they seem to want to make the new Zelda game for the Wii U along those lines. That's the thing that they were really trying to promote at this year's E3. It's like, oh, it's so open world, you can do things in any order you want. I didn't really like that feature that much in the 3DS game. It was a good idea. I don't think the way they handled it was very good.
Well, it's sort of like the original Legend of Zelda in that respect, because if I remember correctly, you can go to a bunch of different dungeons in any order.
You can't. Well, you can go to them, and you could go to a different dungeon in different order, but it wasn't always the best idea, because usually there were items that you needed to get in each of those that you needed to get for the rest of them. Like, I think in 1, 2, and 3, you can do them pretty much any order, and it's okay. But then after that, if you start going out of order, you're going to have to be doing some backtracking to get items that you missed, I think. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure. As the game progresses, it gets a bit more... You kind of have to go in a certain order, or you're going to be going back a lot to get stuff that you need.
Yeah, so the way they do it in Link Between Worlds is, like I said, every dungeon is a one-item dungeon, and you can get the items in any order. That's basically it. You go to a shop, and you say, oh, well, I want to go to the sand dungeon. I'm going to buy the sand rod here at the shop, and then go to the sand dungeon, and that's how you do it.
Mm-hmm.
But if you die, the shopkeeper shows up and says, guess what? I'm taking the item back from you now, and you have to pay another $200 to rent it again.
Because the point is
every time I died, I would immediately turn off the system to avoid that happening. Like, oh, dead, turn off the system immediately.
The point that I think they were trying to go for was, you get the item for that dungeon, and then once you beat that dungeon, you get it permanently. So you kind of build up your items as you go through the game, but in whatever order you want. But yeah, the cost of getting them back seems to be a bit steep.
Well, the problem is that your item, like your sand rod, is only going to be useful in the sand dungeon. There's nowhere else where you can ever use it, ever. I'm exaggerating for effect, but that's sort of true. It's sort of true that by making every dungeon a one-item dungeon, you can't really use items in other dungeons.
No, but what you could do with them is you could have like one secret room per dungeon that requires an item from somewhere else, or you could have parts of the overworld map that are only accessible when you have the right items, or you could do a big fancy final dungeon that takes full advantage of your entire repertoire.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's sort of what they tried to do, except not as amazing as you made it sound.
Right, because like with Mega Man, like usually it's like the first 8 levels are kind of, you can use special weapons, but you don't need them for the most part. But then once you get to the castle stages, then it's like, okay, you need to use them now, and so you get to kind of see them at their full potential. But then, like, say with one of the things I don't like about Mega Man 7 with the whole 4 and then 4, even though you can play all 8 if you type in a secret code, the problem is that because of you'd think that if you had the first 4, then you could require those first 4 for some interesting challenges in the next, Robot Master stages. But
which
because
they do a little bit, but not really.
Mega Man 8 honestly did that better.
Yeah, that
than
they
Mega
do.
Man 7. I'll give Mega Man 8 credit for that. Not much else. But Mega Man 8 at least said, okay, we're going to make you do these first 4, and we're going to make you do it. Then we're going to make some interesting, what was that one? Whose level is it where it's a section challenge for each weapon?
You're thinking of Swordman?
Yeah, Swordman. That was interesting. I liked that idea.
Yeah, I was on board with that.
Mm-hmm. And it kind of tied into the whole gimmick thing Mega Man 8 was going for, which in certain respects they did not deliver very well on, but in certain respects it was kind of cool. Like that boss battle where you're falling down a waterfall. That was a cool idea.
Kind of Kirby-esque.
Yeah.
In Aquaman stage, yeah.
But then, you've got levels where you're, swimming through spikes with, wacky swimming controls that have never existed before in Mega Man, and you're like, why would you even do
No, Mega Man 3 for PC. You could swim.
I think if Mega Man 8 was looking to the PC games for inspiration, we might have solved the mystery of its stylistic choices, we'll call them.
So with going back to Legend of Zelda Link Between Worlds, like you said, the final dungeon is allegedly takes use of all the items you get from the previous 11 dungeons, but in reality you only need 4. It only uses 4 of the items, so there are only 4 items that you can use in multiple dungeons, which is kind of a shame.
Other Zelda games have done better with that. I remember Minish Cap, it was kind of it was a Game Boy game, so it was kind of condensed, so there were only 4 main dungeons, but the weapons were generally useful, in other situations. They were useful for puzzles, but then, there was, one wind jar, which you could use it to solve puzzles, but then you could also use it to, suck up enemies, and then, they'd get caught in the front of the jar, and then you could, shoot them at other enemies, I think. And that was, a consistent thing. And then there was, the flip over rod, which you could use for all the turtle enemies that would appear, and they'd end up on their back, and then you could destroy them. I don't remember the other... one of the items was the ability to jump. That was just kind of weird.
Twilight Princess, I think, was the first game where I could be wrong, but where you run into the counter where you have the one item which is basically useful in one spot. So, for example, the slingshot that Link gets, you only have to use it twice to beat the game, and it's only in the first dungeon. After you get the bow and arrow, that basically replaces it. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but yes, you're correct. Usually items are more useful in multiple dungeons, but for this one they didn't because they wanted to make it so you could do the dungeons in any order.
See, what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to make it not necessary to have the item, but to make it easier if you do. Maybe there's this tricky platforming section, but if you have this item, you could you could have a special shield which blocks all the laser beams, which otherwise you wouldn't be able to do.
Yeah, I agree, that's probably what they should have done, and that's what I was thinking they were going to do, because when I started out, I'm like, okay, I'm just going to buy all 12 items right here at the very beginning.
Can you do that?
It required some grinding, but I was able to do it. I was able to buy the majority of all the items right pretty much at the very start.
And then you died and lost all of them?
Yeah, it was sad.
Jeddy, what are you playing?
I recently played Ascendant, which I reviewed for GameCola.net Gaming Outside the Mainstream. I actually had met the developers previously at Indienomicon, the local Orlando indie developer meetup. So it was cool to finally play the game. Before that, I also reviewed Enemy Mind, which was another cool. Like it really made me jealous because I had just released my own retro space shooter game, and then here comes this like super awesome retro space shooter game, and I'm like, man, really got to step it up now, don't I? Those are the two games that I've played, I guess.
Was that the end of the fan?
No, there's still.
Oh goodness.
What upcoming games are you excited for?
Well, Angry Birds Stella, obviously.
Yeah.
I'm not aware of any upcoming games.
I didn't watch E3, so.
I'm not excited about anything that anyone would find interesting. Usually just the basic stuff like Pokemon and Smash Brothers. Really, there's nothing I'm like. Even though those are just kind of like, those are almost like, I'm excited about them, but they're almost like, yeah, you just, if you are like 90% of people are excited about Smash Brothers and Pokemon.
Yeah.
Like, it's not interesting. It's like saying you played Minecraft and you had a good time.
I like to eat food.
Or that you acknowledge
that stuff is delicious.
Or you acknowledge that Mario is a classic series. Like, whoop-de-doo.
Are any of the group familiar with the Mystery Dungeon series? If so, what are your thoughts?
Yes, I am. Is anyone else?
My only exposure to it was when I was a summer day camp counselor, and the kid was having a really hard time with a block-pushing puzzle, and I helped him solve it. That's all I remember.
What? Are we talking about the same Mystery Dungeon?
Pokemon Mystery Dungeon?
There's block pushing? I didn't think there was block pushing.
Well, maybe it's a different Pokemon.
Hold on.
That would be right. That sounds like regular Pokemon. But Mystery Dungeon, I like it a lot. It's an interesting take on taking the concept of Pokemon. It's the plot of the games most of the time. The general, each game has a specific plot, but the general theme of all of them is that you are a person, a human being, that gets turned into a Pokemon, and all you can remember is that A, at one point you were a human being, and B, your name, and that's it. In the first game, it's like not even relevant, like after you establish that plot point. But you play as a Pokemon, and then you've got other Pokemon on your team, and you choose your own moves. You take like a personality test to see what Pokemon you turn into. The first one was kind of eh. There wasn't a whole lot of interesting things that happened. It was just kind of a progression of this thing happened, and this thing happened, and then this thing happened, and then this thing happened. Whereas the second game kind of has more of an overarching story. But I enjoy it. I think it's a fun series. I haven't played the third one though, so I can't speak to that one.
It is a video game.
Oh, they also did, the first series did this thing, like, you know how the original DS and DS Lite, you could put a Game Boy game in and a DS game in?
Mm-hmm.
So, like, with Mystery Dungeon, there were two versions, one on Game Boy and one on DS, and if you put the two, like, in the DS at the same time, you could, like, make them interact with each other in different ways. It was interesting. That's the only other thing I can think to say about it.
I was actually going to write about that feature if I decide to write about the Castlevania DS games. Castlevania Aria of Sorrow was on the Game Boy Advance, and then Castlevania Dawn of Sorrow was on the DS.
Dawn of the Aria of Sorrow.
It had thing. It had the same feature where, like, all of your cool items and things that you got in the Game Boy Advance game, that you could unlock them just by plugging in your Game Boy Advance into that slot on your DS. But here's the thing, it only works if you have Castlevania Aria of Sorrow for the Game Boy Advance, not if you have the double pack for the Game Boy Advance, which has two different Castlevania games on it. So that was a real pain for me. It's like, but I spent all this time playing Aria of Sorrow, and all of my items just don't transfer over because I played it on the copy that has game number 2, Harmony of Dissonance, as well. And here I was trying to save money so I could buy 2 games in one rather than just 2 separate games.
But that's how they get you now. Now not only do you have to buy the combo pack, but you also have to buy the original game.
So lame.
Any more questions on that email?
One more.
All right. Lay it on us.
Lastly, if train A was heading east at 74 kilometers per hour and train B was heading northwest...
Oh, no.
Is that actually the
That
question?
All right, finish it off.
And
Wait. Okay, start over.
if train A was heading east at 74 kilometers per hour and train B was heading northwest at 39 miles per hour, wait, you just switched.
Does it switch? That's rude.
And train B swerved off the track and crashed, how long would it take for a passenger on train A to climb a tree?
Oh, well, wait, hold on.
Depends-
Did you say the second one was in miles per hour?
Yeah.
Okay, so if I take the square root of pi,
Okay.
then multiply that by 7, and
Mhm.
then raise e to that power,
Well, but they don't give us neither the height of the passenger nor the height of the tree.
no, you can figure that out.
Okay.
Hold on. It's all inference. This is on Earth, right?
It does not specify.
Alright, well, I think you usually assume. So we'll go, gravitational acceleration of 9.8 meters per second. Account for horizontal acceleration. Throw in some imaginary numbers for good measure. And the answer is 31 light years per degree Fahrenheit.
Perfect. Pencils down, is that what
Bam.
everyone got?
I got
I got 36, but I might have missed a digit somewhere.
Did you carry the 1?
That's probably it. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense now.
So I feel I've used up enough of your time as it is, so I'll just say one more thing. You're all awesome. That was bolded. Okay, bye. So ever faithful, Knowledge.
Thank you, Knowledge. Those were some lovely questions that we talked quite a bit about.
Yes.
We should probably stop. Jeddy, we have a website, don't we?
We do, in fact, have an actual internet website, GameCola.net. If you go to http://www.gamecola.net/, you can visit our website on the information superhighway.
And what if they are on the website? Are there any other places they could go to see more interesting GameCola content?
They can visit us on YouTube, where we have lots of lovely videos. You can search for gc.net, the letter G, the letter C, the word dot, the word net. We are on YouTube. You can also find us on Twitter. We're at GameCola. You can find us on Facebook. Just search for GameCola. We're also on Tumblr. Again, gamecola.tumblr.com. Did I mention iTunes? I don't think I mentioned that we're on iTunes.
I was about to say, if they're listening,
on iTunes.
if they're interested in rating us highly, they should go to iTunes. If you don't want to rate us highly, then we're not on iTunes.
Yeah.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
Yeah. What is iTunes?
I think it's like some sort of like glasses that play music.
Yeah. It's for your eyes. It's music for your eyes. iTunes.
Yeah.
Is that everything?
I think that's about everything. GameCola.net, gaming outside the mainstream. Thank you everyone for being here. Thank you everyone for listening. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Wait,
You're so good at ending
Yes,
these.
goodbye.
this
Bye.
is the end of the podcast starting now. It's weird that it's still daylight out, though. It feels like inappropriate to podcast at this time. I feel like I shouldn't be able to see outside.